Hello and welcome, you join me ADG, and here we are on NxtGen Racing's Ginetta GT4 Championship. This time round we are at Suzuka, and it's we're just about to watch the beginning of the race basically. So little do I know, whilst I'm just checking my setup for the last time, just making sure everything's right, when I back out now, in a second, it's raining. So I had to adjust, I had to go back into my setup. I managed to put my traction control on and put it up to 5, which I used at Laguna Seca in the wet last week, so I thought that was alright, and then put the wet tyres on. That's all I managed to do. I've done all my practice in the dry, all my setup. You can hear me complaining on the actual recording when I did it.
Great.
Talking to my girlfriend. So
I managed to get some wet tyres on at least.
It's been dry in practice, been dry in qualifying, and all of a sudden, with the dynamic weather on, it is possible for it to rain during the race, and this is what we've got this race. So yeah, here we go.
Low tire pressure, stay clear of the curbs.
So we get the rolling start underway. I managed to qualify in second. RV Motorsport, which won both of the races last week in round 2 around Laguna Seca. He qualified in pole position. So we're all in the Ginetta GT4. This is NxtGen Racing's championship, hosted by those guys. Go check them out if you've not heard of them. Good set of lads to go league racing with. Good clean as well. So we're about to get on the way as me and RV Motorsport roll it side by side towards the line. I nearly jumped the start. I was very close to jumping the start on this one, and I nearly went over it too quickly. If you look at the speed at the top, I had to brake right at the last second.
Green light, show them what you got.
Just got it under the speed, but I managed to actually get a good start considering that.
I don't think I did. It's close there.
You hear me waffling on in the background. Ignore my comments whilst I recorded it. So this is the first lap. No one's done a lap in the wet, I believe. They might have done the previous league race round Suzuka in the wet, but if not, this is everyone's first wet lap round this track. So a bit of a voyage of discovery, this first one. Taking it nice and steady, trying to keep up with the guy in front. If he can go that quick, why shouldn't I be able to? That's what I always think.
Not actually too bad.
The main thing was that I got the setup of the wet tyres on, but other than that, I'm using the dry setup that I worked on during the week when I practiced in the dry. But yeah, I've just chucked the wet tyres on, so it's not the best setup for the wet. Bit aggressive, I guess.
Down this part, it's easy.
But I made it work eventually.
This is good.
Got to grips with it.
It's just been dry and qualifying and wet in the race. Quite the possibility.
Again, waffling on in the background there. Strange to hear myself waffling on whilst I'm recording over it.
Whoa, big slide.
Big slide. There you go. I've done all the commentary already.
It's a short shift. Can't get anywhere near high rev. No, the car don't like it.
I think I was talking to our last. Yeah, I was. She was up here. Not that she's interested whatsoever, but this is what she gets when she comes up. She gets my description of racing. So coming towards 130R for the first time in the wet, and I go deep, I go too wide. Not too bad though, I managed to get back on track without much issue. It does take a little confidence away for this last chicane. Got NxtGen Ultra behind me. It's not that close at the moment. Heading on to the start finish straight to start lap 2. easy to go deep into there and run wide onto that curb. And in a few laps time, I need a drink. I might give you a little treat and do that for you. So hopefully you guys don't mind. I've cut down this video in my own unique little way. So there will be sections of just laps on my own basically missing. I'll try and sum up the race as best as possible. It's an hour long endurance race is this, and I managed to cut it down to about half an hour, so it should be a bit more bearable to watch back. Thank you very much for joining me and supporting me if you do so and you have done so already. If not, feel free to hit that subscribe button if you feel like doing so. Watching any more of my content, go check it out. I really do appreciate it though, thank you very much. So I'm just trying to keep up with RB Motorsport at this point, trying to keep him within my sights, but he's pulling away and he's pulling away. I don't want to lose touch with him because that's the race win, or the chance of the race win gone, so I'm trying to push here, believe it or not. It doesn't look like it because I'm going so slowly, but that's because of the conditions and the grip levels not really being anywhere near what you expect. So last time I went too deep into 130R, let's see what I do this time. Yep, missed the apex by a mile, did it again. So missing the apex, the crucial mistake twice there. Too bad through the last chicane, short shifting into third to try and get some power down, just because that last corner can be a bit tricky in the dry, never mind in the wet, so did not want any issues with oversteer through that last corner. There's a little bump basically that can, even though it doesn't look like much of a corner as you're loading up the tyres, there's a little bump and it can kick out the rear end a little bit. So going wide on lap 2 into the first corner, complaining to myself that I've got no temperature in the tyres and brakes, but I have, if I have a look. Just terrible braking and my own mistake, but obviously being a pretend racing driver, whatever you want to call those guys who sit in our loft bedrooms, wherever you are in your house, racing away on your wheel, then we've always got to have an excuse, like real racing drivers as well. You've always got to have an excuse. Never the driver's fault. There's always something wrong with the car, the tyres, the track. Never my fault, I know that for sure. I am the perfect driver, of course. Joking, by the way. Again, just trying to keep with this RV, but pulling away and pulling away. I can just about see him into the hairpin. Looked like I went a little slow into there, but it is a hairpin, so maybe I got my hopes up. Again, short shifting into 4th over this section. Still lost the rear a little bit there, bit of a slide to catch. Bit of a correction going on. Yeah, tricky conditions to say. There was no wet weather practice whatsoever going on. It was good fun actually. I really quite enjoy it. You just do not know what any corner's got in store for you. You've got to just find out and then adjust to it the next lap, and then try and get better and adjust to it again the next lap. Look, I'm slowly getting closer to getting 130R right. That was better. I kept it on track that time. So again, just learning from my previous mistakes, the last couple of laps, just improving, and that's what I really like about wet weather driving. It's, even though you might have done thousands of laps around the track, you never know what's in store for you when it's wet.
Better lap time. Second quicker.
Certainly keeps you on your toes anyway, put it that way.
Oh,
There we go, big mistake, I promised you.
The brakes just don't do anything.
The brakes do something, that was me moaning at the time.
Guy behind, still behind.
The brakes were absolutely fine because I managed to get through every other lap. Here we go, a little slow-mo to highlight my massive mistake.
Oh, the brakes just don't do anything. Guy behind, still behind, but only just. Oh my god.
I managed to gather it back up, get it back on track without too much of an issue, but it has pulled NxtGen Ultra up to my rear end a little bit closer. So throughout the rest of this lap it gets closer and closer, and it ends up resulting in quite a good moment later on. Again, short shifting out of there, already in 5th gear. No need to be for the revs, but just trying to keep the traction. Rear wheel drive Ginetta can be a bit leery at the best of times. Nice and steady into rear, but look what it cost me. Look at the guy behind, nearly goes into my rear bumper. I go that slowly into that hairpin there, so really caught me dawdling. Now he's right behind me. I ended up losing it a little bit through there as well, so I had to lift off, otherwise I was going off track there with understeer, so I had to lift off to gather it back up. Gave him the run on the inside, but the outside for the next corner, which is Spoon, and I just held my own at the apex. Broke it side by side with him into the apex. Didn't give him any grief with any contact, but managed to give him grief by taking the apex off him, which was kind of crucial looking back.
We got right past it, but to keep it side by side with a proper dodge a bit.
Waffling on again when I actually recorded it, but
to get it back off him.
Yeah, that was, looking back, that was a big moment in my race there. If he'd have got past there, I could have been following him around for a few laps and everything, so, or struggling to get past him, making mistakes or whatever. I'm not necessarily going to get back past him if he'd have got past, so it was a big moment looking back. That little defence on the inside there, onto the inside the Spoon. He had the run on me. It was a little drag race really to Spoon, but because I stuck to the left hand side with that wide exit from the previous corner, I managed to stick to the left hand side. Anyway, on to lap 6 now after a little fast rewind, fast forward even. A fast rewind, fast forward. Don't know what I'm talking about sometimes. I've not got a great grasp of the English language, you might have been able to tell. So we're on lap 6, and I believe this is where I started gaining some kind of confidence. If you can see just about on the track as well, there's a tiny wet, like dry line developing on certain parts of the corner, so maybe the exit or whatever. Not on every corner, but there's certain bits where it's slightly drier on the track now. Not dry, but drier. So gaining a little bit of time through these laps now. Still going and making a few mistakes, so just catching the grass there, gathered it up nicely though, if I do say so myself. Through the second Degner, can be a tricky corner at the best of times, never mind in the wets. Trying to keep it over to the right hand side here so I could actually carry a bit of speed into this hairpin, down into first gear for that hairpin. As you can see, NxtGen Ultra still behind me, but I've gained a nice little gap over him that I'm not having to worry about him diving down the inside or anything at this present time. What's the gap? I think it's about a second, 9/10, roughly hovering around that area. Coming into Spoon, hook up the first apex nicely, run it wide onto the curb, which you can actually get away with in the wet, I was surprised about. And then just looking for the good exit. You don't want to go too wide there because it does just kind of give you a bit of understeer, take you further wide. I'm actually talking you through a lap like a proper commentator. Coming up to 130R, looking out for the roughly about 75 marker I was braking. Between the 150 and the 50 marker, there isn't a 75 marker, but between those two. Crucial last chicane, trying to keep it nice and tidy through there. Get a good exit out of here, already in 4th gear, just trying to prevent any kind of oversteer, as we've already mentioned. Wasn't hindering my lap times either, so I thought it's not too bad. Anyway, that's that one over with. We'll skip a bit further forward. And this is just a little section. I kept watching the weather. I was almost obsessively watching if the weather was going to change at the bottom. And if you look in a second, it goes cloudy instead of rain. So I got very excited at this point. That is, so down there, this if you can see above the tyres where the green tyres are, there's 2 weather things. So there's a 5-minute weather thing and then a 15. Now I've skipped a bit further forward. The 5-minute weather window is dry and the 15 weather window is dry as well. So there was a 20-minute pit window in this race. It started after 20 minutes of the race, and with 20 minutes of the race to go, it would finish. So it started from 40 minutes to 20 minutes basically. So on lap 13 decided to go into the pits. I was nearly out of fuel. The track wasn't fully dry at this point. There was a drying line. It started to dry up a little bit. It was still raining a tiny bit at this point. It was dry. It was on and off, but it was still raining a little bit. But decided to go on the dry tyre because I didn't want to pit twice. I did not want to go back out on the wet tyre and then have to come in for this dry weather in like a couple of laps basically. So basically really risked it. Good job that guy pulled out of the way as well. I risked it for a biscuit and went on the slicks here, even though the track's still pretty wet, and I know it's no easy feat staying on track. But I just thought if I can get a couple of slow laps out of these slick tyres on the wet, I might have a good chance of having this race here. I was still in 2nd position when I pitted as well. I've dropped down into 4th currently while sat in the pits, so not too much to worry about at the moment. I don't know what everyone else's strategy is, bear in mind. I don't know if anyone else has pitted. It doesn't come up, it's not like Gran Turismo Sport where it comes up and tells you if someone's pitting. You don't really know, so I've no idea if anyone has pitted behind me or in front of me really. I'm just guessing from the fact that the guys, I've just dropped into 4th place from 2nd place, that the guys behind, the guys that are now in front of me haven't pitted. Anyway, look at this now. So I'm on the slick tyre. There's a dryish line, but I've got to try and stick to that line. If I go out of that line, I've got no grip whatsoever. So this was a really interesting part of the race for me. I don't know if it's interesting to watch back, hopefully it is. But a drying track or a drying line is certainly another challenge in itself. So this is why I like this game. There's so many different aspects to like challenge you in it. Look at this, I've got to try and stick in this tiny narrow little rally style line where you've got to take the exact perfect line every single corner to have some kind of grip and be able to brake and accelerate. So trying to get to grips with that now, and trying to get to grips literally with the slick tyre. The other issue I had was the fact that the slick tyre never got up to temperature. If you watch it never gets up to temperature, so I'm going round, and because of the rain and the cold track temperature, because of the rain as well, I don't manage to get my tyres up to temperature, even though I'm on slicks, and you'd think as it dries you would do, but it didn't really work like that. But it certainly did allow me to push a little bit harder further into the race, a bit earlier than most people I think, but it was a risky one. See how careful I'm having to take it. But then when I get onto the dry line, I've got some kind of confidence to put my foot down, so that's the benefit to it. Again though, it's a voyage of discovery again, every single lap now on these slicks in the damp conditions, let's call them, is another voyage of discovery. I'm learning every single lap here. Again, another aspect I really like about this so far, this league racing on ACC, Assetto Corsa Competizione. Good game. Force feedback's awesome as well. I'll always sing and dance about the 4-speed back. I love it. Class. Feels good. As well, on my Fanatec, Dell, which actually is in this race, I forgot to mention. Dell, the Fusion champion from the MRC, is in this race somewhere. He was in 4th position earlier on. I think he's in 5th or something at the moment. Oh, now he pops. I think he's in 6th actually. But yeah, Dell, when I first started playing this game, Dell had got it before me, and he told me the wheel settings for this game, for the Fanatec, and it was basically like, turn everything up to maximum. So that's all I've done, and I really like it. I've got my, I don't have sensitivity, I have my sensitivity set to like 540 degrees rotation or something. But other than that, everything else is on maximum, and it feels fine on this game. Other games, it'd give you some right grief doing that, and you'd have to tune individual bits out and stuff like that, but just everything on maximum feels awesome. And then in the actual game, I've set it up a bit differently, but it's really good. Feels really good on the wheel. Anyway, I'm not sat here promoting the game, I'm watching my race. Lap 15, and we've got 20 minutes left of the race. We will skip a little bit more, a little bit further on, but I just wanted to watch this little section because, again, quite interesting as the lines, the dry lines getting bigger and bigger and wider. I think it has actually stopped raining now, so the chance to get faster lap times in is there now. Just need to find the grip, make sure you stick to this dry line, and hope for the best. Quite frankly, that's how it kind of works for me. Again, short shifting into 4th already, coming out of that last corner. Kept using that technique. I think right at the end, when it dried up a little bit more, I started using the gears properly out of there, but up until then, kept using my short shift techniques here and there. I love this first sector of Suzuka, it's brilliant. Such a rhythm kind of section. Good. Not that this is a great lap to show it off, because I missed every single apex, but there we go, I missed another one. Oh no, you heard the rumble strip there. I touched it. This lap feels really slow watching it back, but I'm actually green. It's one of my fastest laps so far, so it just felt so slow through that sector then. We will see the lap time slowly improving now. Keep mentioning the track keeps drying. And you're never quite sure how dry it's going to be when you come round for that next lap, because there's like 13 other cars going round in between my lap, if you know what I mean. So you're never quite sure, is it going to be a lot drier? Is that corner going to be flat out this time? Is it not? There was like a little river that ran across the first corner as well, so you can get the braking zone into the first corner and it's dry with a dry line. Then there's a little river that just, it must be where the water actually runs off in real life, and it runs across, so it's wet like as you're on the brakes and then goes dry again. But it does give you a little momentary scare. Try and point it out on this next lap. Excuse me. If you're enjoying this video, please hit that like button, it helps me out. If you're not enjoying it, what are you doing watching? Feel free to hit that dislike button as well. Or leave a comment, by all means. So we're going to skip forward again in a second as we cross over the line. We're going to skip towards the end of the race. Not a lot of action going on, I'll be honest, in this race. But if you watch at the bottom now, I go from second to first as I crossed over the line there. So as I crossed over the line on that last lap,
Fastest lap of the race, man. Good job.
before I fast forwarded loads, I just took first place. So RB Motorsport, the guy who was in first place, I think he did a 2-stop race in this one. He must have done for me to gain first place. So at this point, as you can see, the track's pretty dry, still a little damp here and there, but it's properly dry now. Where it's dry, it's properly dry, so you can actually drive a proper dry line. And yeah, I just had to try and hold this position. I didn't realise whilst I was actually racing, it's not that obvious on this game unless you're keeping an eye on the delta all the time and the positions, but generally I don't. I know what position I'm in, I don't worry about it too much. But yeah, so I don't think I noticed in the race actually at the time when I took first place. It took me a few laps to notice that I'd taken it. Anyway, last 5 minutes this, so just watch these last 5 minutes, bringing it home, or trying to, that is. Who knows, do I win or not, who knows. Certainly got a good chance in first place at the moment. Look at this, the sun's out now, you can't believe it were raining earlier. And we were suffering such slow lap times. So I think my fastest lap in the wet was like a 2:26. And now my fastest lap's down to a 2:19, so like 7 seconds quicker now it's dry. And I'll only keep getting quicker and quicker as the tyres come up to temperature a little bit. Still not up to temperature. Guess because the track was so cold after the rain. Yeah. Even in the dry, couldn't get them quite up to temperature. The pressures weren't too bad, they weren't too far off, the tyre pressures, but the car didn't actually feel that bad for it. So, and I was in first place at the end of the day, so it couldn't have been going too badly with the tyres. But never had them at the optimum is what I'm trying to say, I guess. Come over the line to complete lap 22 onto lap 23. The river's dried up now, even into the first corner. Little river I'm talking about. Understandably, now it's not raining. So yeah, to say I was expecting a dry race and 40 minutes of this race ended up being wet, then it was a bit of a shock, to say the least. So I know what to expect from ACC at least now. Even if it's meant to be a dry race, it's not guaranteed because of this dynamic weather setting. So it's interesting. I think because I had it in the back of my head as well, that's why I kept watching the weather, because it was meant to be dry but it ended up being wet because of the dynamic weather. I was kind of convinced that it should dry out, it shouldn't be a wet race all the way through, because otherwise you'd put the wet settings on, if you know what I mean. So it was meant to be a dry race. I knew at some point it was meant to get dry, but it just seemed to take forever whilst we were actually racing. Like 40 minutes, like I say, it ended up being wet for, so it stopped raining more or less. Anyway, it was good stuff, really enjoyed it. Yeah, confession to make as well about this race. I didn't quite capture it all, so I didn't actually get the last lap, I don't think, if I remember rightly. So I think it does finish prematurely, I don't think I actually got the whole race. So I'm going to pretty much wrap it up now, even though it's not the last lap. Rest assured, I did win, you just have to trust me on that one. I did end up winning in the end, and I'm really happy because it's my first ACC League race win. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up for the commentary right here. Thank you very much for watching, take care, I will see you again soon hopefully. Feel free to hit that like button if you've enjoyed it, and look after yourselves. Bye for now.